Okay, item number 10, we're going to reconvene in open session at 7:09 p.m. Item number 11, consider possible action resulting from items posted and legally discussed in executive session. Could I have a motion, please?
Mr. Mayor, I move to give direction to the mayor, city staff, and our consultant to negotiate a development agreement for future council consideration.
I have a motion on the floor. Could I have a second?
I need to make a correction. Wasn't it council, Mayor? You left the word council out.
No.
I move to give direction to the mayor, city staff, and our consultant.
I don't hear council in that.
I'm not making a motion for the council to
Okay.
negotiate.
I'm sorry. My
I'll restate
mistake.
the motion if that's okay.
I'm sorry. I withdraw my objection.
I move to give direction to the mayor, city staff, and our consultant to negotiate a development agreement for future council consideration.
I'm sorry.
second that one.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And which one was the second? Mr. Wright?
Mr. Byers? Okay, we're good. Item number 12. Thank you, Clay. Item number 12, discussion appropriate action on adopting a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign documents related to the acceptance and execution of the 2019 Texas Department of Transportation Routine Airport Maintenance Program, RAMP, grant, and designating the city administrator as the authorized representative. Mike Fisher, airport manager.
Are you, okay, Mike's not here, but this is the same grant that we've had over a number of years. This is just, and it's in our budget. It's a 50-50 matching grant. That means that basically most of the routine maintenance is done at the airport. 100,000 of that would be matched up to 50% by by this grant. And we're just asking to do it again this year.
Somebody needs to sign it.
That's what we're saying, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Do you have any questions about it?
I have a question, and I was asked the same question. So the 50,000 is from the city, and it gets paid back to the city by the airport?
No, this is the airport. The airport pays this out of their budget. It's not the city, it's the airport.
So the 50,000 is in the airport budget?
Yes.
And, okay.
Any other questions?
I've just got one comment. I think this is a good opportunity for the city to relook at our approach to maintenance at the airport, because there's a very broad definition of what constitutes maintenance, and we should work to get everything that we can possibly get into that definition into this RAMP program. I think maybe we haven't done that as well as we could have in the past, and I think we should really work hard at that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Could I have a motion authorizing the mayor to sign documents related to acceptance, execution of the 2019 TxDOT RAMP grant and designating the city administrator as the authorized representative?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
A second?
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 13, discussion and appropriate action on the WARF program. Chief Colleen.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Last meeting, he asked us to come back with a proposition on what to do to work with and work on this warrant program. I got a few numbers because you were asking last meeting, Mayor. For the last 5 years, we have a total of $1,653,000 in warrants, just in the last 5 years. In the last 3 years, it's $1,000,018. So I'm not going to go through the background here because we know the background part, if that's okay with y'all. And I'm going to get into the issues, problems, and resolutions.
Okay.
And this was written by Sergeant Fisher. The following are deficiencies in the current process and are largely to blame for the bottleneck at the municipal court. The Castroville Municipal Court does not convene often enough to drive a warrant recovery process. The court currently convenes for one single 4-hour session each month. The court is in session from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. on the first Thursday of each month. Due to the ever-increasing number of citations being issued by the police department, current level is about 500 to 600 a month. The court docket is filled to overflowing each month. The work required to enter, track, and execute the various pieces of the citation process is staggering. Dockets must be prepared, case folders generated, mandated due process letters must be prepared and mailed, and entries must be made into databases at the local and state level at each step along the way. It takes a great deal of time for the court clerk to produce all the documents required for each court session, which leaves very little time to spend on efforts to clear the huge backlog of old citations and warrants. Simply put, they take a back seat in light of the current court workload. Secondly, the number of current warrants being delivered to the warrant division is not sufficient to drive the collection efforts at the level desired. And this is the level desired by me personally and I believe by the mayor and council. Let's assume a docket of 500 cases. If we can assume 30% failure to appear rate and a 10% failure to follow through on plea deals, we should have approximately 200 warrants produced from each court session. With the current 30 to 60-day delay in warrant production due to mandated process of letters and waiting periods, it may slow the process down, but there should still be around 200 warrants delivered every 60 days after the court date. This is not happening. The processes in place to ensure timely production of warrants are ineffective, and a great deal of time is being spent on old warrants with an extremely small chance of collection. The workflow needs to be revised to focus efforts on newer warrants, to streamline the due process letters, and to quickly produce warrants once due process is given. Thirdly, the municipal court's clerk's efforts are unfocused, and due to the large backload of cases, the process is bogging down and failing to ensure timely delivery of warrants to the warrant division. As you can see, the massive bureaucratic paper drill required that eventually leads to the warrant production is enormous. The court clerk is currently unable to keep up with her ever-increasing number of citations and warrants. And that will only continue to increase as the city grows and citation numbers continue to increase. This problem will continue to grow without positive action to reassess and revise current court procedures. Everything we're going back to is we have the procedures in place are not working. Problem resolution recommendations. First of all, the Castroville Municipal Court should meet twice a month with 2 full-day sessions. The recommendations for the first and third Thursday of the month with a morning session from 8 to 12, a break for lunch, and then an afternoon session from 1 to 5. This will require an investment in additional funding for judge and prosecutor time and possibly the hiring of an additional judge. Mary Jo and I are working on the amounts, the funding it's going to take. We weren't able to get that amount in line yet for this meeting, but we can get it out right away as soon as we have it. The city needs to use existing staff resources, help the municipal clerk in accomplishing timely warrant production. Reassignment of some existing personnel resources on a part-time basis will help alleviate some of the pressure on the system. Processes need to be evaluated, revised, and optimized by splitting the workload in organized fashion. This part-time clerk will assist the municipal clerk in getting us back on track by assisting in docket and document preparation, letter processing, and warrant production tasks. Ideally, we'd love to have a deputy court clerk, a full-time one as this takes off, and we can see the use for it. Right now, we don't have the funds for it. Jerry and I looked at it, crunched numbers, and just said it's just not feasibly possible at this point. So utilizing what we have is what we hope we can do to make it a better deal. The city needs to let the old uncollectible citations and warrants remain untouched for the next few months. I'm not going to read through this whole thing. These warrants, they are collectible. The mayor and I have talked about it. Sometimes you get them because they're in jail, but still there's no money brought in, but the warrants are cleared. You get to throw them on the person in the jail because they get time served by the judge when they come in and do the arraignment. Sometimes you can get somebody to pay some of them. So to just write them off the books is not always a good deal. Having them just, they've been in cabinets for 10 to 20 years, allowing them to sit for a few more months is an acceptable trade-off to get after our new warrants. and the city needs to backfill the warrant officer position. The current warrant officer has been hired as the airport manager at the Castroville Municipal Airport, and the workload is such that he will be unable to perform both the warrants officer and airport manager positions. The recommendation is to hire a part-time warrant officer into the position and have the current warrant officer assume warrant or division supervisor duties only with broad executive oversight with no daily interaction. The warrant division supervisor will be responsible for ensuring the proper operation of the warrants division. Sergeant Fisher has a good mind on how this is going, a good idea on how he wants it to progress, and he wants to make sure that he gets to keep his finger in this process and help us make it successful. And he's willing to do that and as an as-needed basis. But as long as we get a knowledgeable, hard-working warrant collection officer, this should just keep going and just get better and better. That's my presentation to you, sir.
Okay, great. I've done a little research about this since then in talking to other communities, and there was, in our last meeting, they wanted to dismiss all the old warrants, and talking to an adjacent city that does this, I know that well, it was Hondo, and it was the municipal judge in Hondo said he cleared, I think it was 17 10-year-old warrants last month. He said, don't get rid of those off the books, because as you get your current ones worked and paying, you need those old ones for the warrant officer to work on. I mean, they continually find old ones that they can clear off the books either by collections or something else. That's the only comment that I have, is that I don't want to see those purged off the books. I want to try to collect them. I don't want to throw that money down the drain.
And I agree with you, because a lot of the people we're writing tickets to now are people that we have been writing tickets to for the last 10 years that haven't been paying.
What was the, didn't Fisher clear one that was like...
He cleared one that was 19 years old. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And he got it paid. I mean, now he's cleared quite a few of them. Right, that was a pay.
Write it off.
Now, all the other ones that he got that were over 5 years old were all by time served, because they were in jail at the time. So when you put the warrants on them in jail, when the judge comes in and he sees they've been in jail for 7, 8, 9, 10 days, they will time serve our warrants. And
that's okay. We cleared them off.
That's right. They get cleared off. But a lot of the ones that you get, the older ones, you get cleared off. But like I said, we've got some habitual violators in our city and surrounding areas that I don't want to write off their warrants, because when we do our warrant roundups and they have 13 to 32 warrants, we want to pick them up and bring them in and make them sit in here and try to pay some. So I concur with you, Mayor.
Another thing, I know you touched on it briefly, but we need to have an alternate judge. We can't just rely on this one judge. I know that there has been a person that has applied. It's the municipal judge in Hondo is doing a fantastic job over there collecting these old warrants, and he's willing to do it if we want him to. And I would think that's the way I would want to go, but I need council's directions on that. Start with Herb. Herb, do you have any comments or suggestions on this?
I think we need to see the impact on the budget. If we're going to double the amount of court dates and the staff, I mean, there's got to be a financial impact on the budget. I think we need to know what that is and decide whether that we can put it in this budget or not.
Yeah, the only financial increase would be the court dates, because we're talking at this point of utilizing idle time of current staff.
What about the judge and the prosecutor?
That's what I'm saying, the court dates, I'm talking, that's the only one we'd have, and we'd be doubling that, because we're looking at 2 days instead of 1, but like I said, we're trying to get all those numbers together.
Quadrupling it.
Well, they're paid by the day, Mr. Dyer. If they're paid for a day's work, they come in, if they have a jury trial in the morning, they'll do the jury trial, and they have the court afterward.
What is the amount? It's very minuscule. It's what?
$1,100 for the judge per
How much?
per month. $1,100 for the
Per month.
For that day.
Yeah, it's It's a minuscule amount of,
I would say it's probably less than 5,000, I mean, way less than 5,000 a
We'll
month.
probably make more than that in revenue.
yes.
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, this is
I'm
not,
happy with that.
this is not a huge budget ad, but it's what they're asking for to be successful.
I support that.
And once we put teeth into this warrant, I mean, people are, they're coming in, they're reading about it in the paper, and
And I mean, looking at Hondo, they're doing a fantastic job with their municipal court over there. And I'd like to try an alternate judge, just to do every other week, just to see compare what kind of results we get.
And we're writing 3 to 5 times the tickets a month in Hondo is, because they don't have a traffic officer.
Yeah.
And we're able to utilize our swing shift guy as traffic, and it's been really nice.
Todd, did you have anything?
No.
Okay. Jesse?
I like the idea of the extra time, and as far as the expense, I believe that what you're going to end up with is the more time he's able to work, the more revenue we're going to actually have. So if we're talking 4 times, I don't think you're going to get 4 times the revenue, but you're definitely going to more than pay for the amount we're going to pay that judge to be here for that extra time, because he'll be able to clear off tickets that people may not show up for a second time if he closes down and he can't get to them.
All right, and we can also have him sign warrants while he's here that second time also. I mean, we're able to do a lot more, because we're not just doing docket, I mean, case after case after case. It gives us the ability to put a process in place.
Exactly. Paul?
I see a small investment and a lot of bang for the buck in this case, and I think we should move forward with it.
Thank you. Phyllis?
I have a question about the personnel. So currently, Sergeant
Yes, ma'am.
Officer Fisher?
Sergeant Fisher, yes, ma'am.
Sergeant Fisher is part of the police department,
Yes, ma'am.
but he is also full-time airport manager?
No, it's a part-time airport manager
He is
position.
now part-time airport manager, and he is also the warrant officer right now?
At this moment, the warrants are taking a back seat to the airport man. That's why he put this last part in there about getting another warrant officer in as quickly as we can, so he can train with them and get them going. Because he said the airport's turning into more than a part-time job for him. And he didn't want to do more than about 20 to 25 hours a week. But
So what does that mean?
I mean, we need to bring somebody in to take his place, what he was doing for as a warrant officer.
So right now, nothing's happening?
That's not true. It's not what we would like. I mean, he is doing court, he's getting the warrants over to the judge to be signed, but it's just more than he desires to do. And we've got a couple of people that I think could fill that position. One's even local, that could fill that position with 30 years experience and walk right in, and once he learns the process, we're good to go.
So as a warrant, I'm just, the personnel aspect bothers me. So I'd just like some clarification on that. The sergeant is still a police officer, but he's also airport manager, and he's also warrant.
Right. Sergeant Fisher went from a reserve officer to a full-time officer.
Right.
Then he went back to part-time. He wants to get this warrant deal going and go back to being a reserve officer. He'll be unpaid in his efforts and what he's doing on the training. So the money that we have set aside already for this warrant officer for this budget period, that won't change one bit. We won't have any extra cost in personnel, because he won't be charging the city for his training and oversight of the warrant division. He wants to see that to be successful, because that's the kind of person that he is.
But is this going to affect the police department with Sergeant Fisher no longer employed full-time with the police department?
No, ma'am, because he went to part-time prior. He went to part-time last year. So it's not an issue. He stayed part-time to help us out with when we were short of officers. As soon as we went to full staff with our officers, he went to full part-time on the warrants and hasn't been charging the city for police officer functions.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
I want to make a point about this. Sergeant Fisher is taking on the airport manager position. That position before that was airport manager, full-time and part-time economic development, and that was somewhere around what, Mary Jo, give me a figure that,
That position was about 60,000.
I was going to say 70, but it was 60, 65 with benefits and everything. All right, this is going to be less than a third of that cost. It's even lower than that. Sergeant Fisher does not want to make a lot of money.
And he doesn't need benefits because he's got full retirement
Yes,
and health and
he
everything.
is doing this as a service. I mean, if y'all have known Sergeant Fisher, he's really a good guy. He does an excellent job. So we just cut probably over $45,000 out of that budget using him. And he's willing to do it, and he's going to do a good job. But we need to get a full-time warrant person under his supervision. He's agreed to supervise it.
Yes, sir.
So it's not adding cost, we cut cost. It's just taking it, because the airport manager does not need to be a full-time position. It just doesn't. So this is a cost-cutting measure for us. I mean, it's helped us dramatically. I just want to make that point.
I got a question.
Yeah,
Chief, who's the person that would be taking Sergeant Fisher's place?
We have 3 people in mind right now. We don't, the personnel process, we have to advertise, we have to come in, we have to interview, but I'm saying the interest that we have right now.
So it wouldn't take away from your current staff, is what you're saying?
No, sir, not at all. Nope.
Who's the judge are we using for those?
We use Tom Cade out of Lytle.
Okay. That's all I got.
okay. Anything else? Do we need, is this an action? You want action, or you just want direction, or?
I believe it's direction.
Just direction, yeah. Well, it says you
We need
can take
direction
action
to-
or direction.
We want to hire the
Warrant officer replacement.
warrant officer, and we want another judge, the alternate judge position filled.
That's-
And
yes, sir.
staff this thing so that it works and starts producing money. Let's go get some warrants. I mean, this is money we all want to agree. If everybody's in agreement with that, I'm good to move on.
Are you going to be able to bring us the cost? So we can plan for it in the budget? Or is it
Well,
already there?
yeah, we don't think the impact on the budget is going to be that great. I mean, we can...
Less than 5,000 is what
Yeah.
we're looking at for the annual.
Yeah.
Oh, annually?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, no, it'll be a little bit more than that annually, but I just threw that out there as a high figure monthly, so if you're talking 1,100...
Oh, yeah, well, it was 1,100 a month, I'm sorry, yeah, so
3,000 maybe,
12,000.
something, yeah. I think we're going to more than cover it with revenues, which would offset whatever happens in the budget. So, and what we'll do is we'll bring back to you an alternate judge.
Just come back with a report showing the financial impact, once you get it together. If everybody's good with that,
Yes.
we'll move on. All right, you got your marching orders.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're clear where we're going with this,
Thank you.
right? And you'll come back the next council, or?
I will have to see, it's going to be, right at this point, it's going to be going into an HR issue, and we're going to have to advertise and do stuff like that, so it may take us 30 days.
Roughly 2 to 4 weeks.
Yeah. So we may be able to have something ready for you next council meeting.
Maybe the council.
If not, we will have one for you within 30 days. Is that good, sir? All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Going on to item number 14, discussion and appropriate action on accepting the completion of work performed by Quero-Mex Construction Company for the construction phase of the City of Castroville water line replacement project and release of retainage. Jerry?
Okay, this is, what we'd like to do is have council accept the completion of the work performed by Quero-Mex Construction Company on the construction phase of the water line replacement project and release the retainage in the amount of $213,457.30. As y'all are probably aware, that water line replacement, that project has been complete for a little while, and we need to clean up the books and get them paid, their retainage, get off the book, everything has been, they've complied with all the, everything they're supposed to, so we're just asking that we do that. This is from the Texas Water Development Loan. That will close out that process. We will, after it's accepted, we'll be sending a letter to them telling them it's complete so that they can close out their side of that. This is basically just a housekeeping item. All the change orders and the everything, this has already been approved. The retainage amount is also approved. Was approved in the construction or change orders and the original contracts. So right now, we're just asking council to help us close it out.
We had some money that's left there.
There is money left there, and it's about $865,000 is what's left in that project. Not in the loan project. So basically, that can be used for another water project that's approved by the Water Development Board, and that it also can be used. We can roll some of the production and development money into that money.
Are you going in line?
Phyllis.
Reading the packet, it says the contractor has satisfied its obligation, and the contract is substantially complete.
That's legal verbiage. It's complete.
But, no, I looked up the old contract, and it was substantially higher, a higher price they bid to do this project. And I'm wondering why there was such a high price originally, and it came out to a much lower price, and we still have street problems.
I can't answer that question, but I don't think it was just a specific area that was being replaced. It wasn't the whole project. And
so all of these streets on this contract have been replaced. You can assure us of that.
I can't assure you that. I don't know. That is something that
Who should?
this was done before I even came on board. I can tell you that what was done was they actually upsized those areas of the pipes that were I guess brought by TCQ's attention, and that they were too small, so they upsized them to bring them to make them to what TCQ required. Maybe there wasn't as many pipes as they thought. I mean, I could not tell you. That would be something you would have to ask. I guess we'd have to ask the contractor.
Well,
because I don't know what it entailed for that contract. I don't know what was done.
It did. Logically, to me, I mean, maybe my logic is incorrect, but if all the pipes weren't matched as to size, and all Public Works complained about the whole time of this contract was, we don't know what's where, and we need cutoff valves, and we need this and that, and they couldn't cut anything off. So in my opinion, this is not complete, not even substantially complete. And before we say it's good, I would like someone to make sure, I don't know whose job it is, but to make sure all these things were done. Since we've got everyone here is new. I will not, myself, probably maybe they will, but I cannot say this project is complete. Right after you said it was, well, not you, right after they said it was complete, we had 2 water breaks. We had to boil water. They couldn't shut it off.
You are right. We did have 2 water breaks, but that had nothing to do with this project because they didn't go in and replace the lines. They just replaced the connections where they had to upsize the lines.
We had change orders for much more than that.
Right, but some of the lines are still old. They didn't do the entire city. They only did those that were mandated, I'm assuming, by TCQ, but I've never even seen any paperwork that said anything to address that. I haven't seen anything, so I really don't know what to answer.
How can we have a contract and we say it's done when there's no one to tell us it's really done?
I know this, all I can tell you is that they have completed the project that they were bid to do. It was inspected.
By whom?
KSA had an inspector.
The engineers that we hired to inspect it.
But I'm sorry, Mayor, I'm interrupting you, but I remember distinctly when we were talking about things and we asked him, has this been done? Has this been done? He said, I will check, and we never got a report back. I would prefer to have a report back from KSA saying that these things were done. before I agree to close it out. Now, the rest of you might go ahead and close it out and not care, but I would prefer KSA tell me, rather than us sitting here saying, yeah, it's done.
Well, they sent us a letter saying that they request that we release the balance that's due to them.
And I have
Well, of
talked to
course they want
KSA,
the
and they said it was
balance due.
No, this is KSA that
I
sent the
know, of
letter.
course, KSA wants the balance due.
No, they don't. This is to the contractor.
This is not
I
KSA.
don't see these things all done.
Well, KSA called me and said it was complete. We talked about it. They sent the letter, and they have completed what is in this change, the 2 million and the change orders.
Something's wrong, because this contract has $2,686,000, and it's got 24 streets, and it has nothing even close to what you gave us in our packet. So I would like KSA to compare this with what they gave us, if they can. It shouldn't be that difficult. I mean, all they have to do is take the original contract and check off this, what they've given us, to make sure it's been done. That's, a week, not even, next meeting or something. That's all I would ask.
I do know this. I do know that there has been lengthy negotiation discussions about this, and this is the agreement that's come out of that.
Well, I don't see any streets on this paper. None. So I have no idea what streets they did, if they did these streets that are on the paper. I see something that they don't match.
Okay. Paul, did you have anything?
I believe that the letter from KSA does state that they concur that the project is complete, and the attachments, I believe, were just the change orders, not the original checklist of all of the project requirements.
Okay.
So I'm supportive of clearing this up.
Jesse?
Well, I wasn't around for most of this, but other than the fact that we don't have a public works director to have signed off on them, I'm a little uneasy, although I am somewhat, because we've got KSA saying it is, I think we could probably, if it's not, hold their feet to the fire if we find out it's not. So I think I can go with it on that.
Okay. Todd, do you have anything?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay. Herb?
I do not think we should close it out until KSA comes in here and gives us a more detailed explanation to answer the questions that have been raised tonight. I'm a little concerned because up here in the letter it talks about the original amount of the loan, and I'd like to get an understanding of why didn't we spend all the money? Did we take something out? Because it says the original value was $3,500,000. And we only spent something like, well, there's 6 change orders. I don't know what they add up to. But there's $865,000 left that hasn't been spent. Did they not do something?
No, those were council pulls some
We
things.
chose not to go on to other phases. We were talking about we got a well to do, we got a water tank to build.
So we unilaterally, the city said
Yes.
stop,
Yes,
and KSA says they did everything up to that point that
Absolutely.
we asked them to do.
they have done everything they have been required to do.
I will say, I've talked to KSA, I don't know how many times, at least weekly, and we've had discussions, and they've assured me that it's done, and that we should move forward with this.
But what's their assurance? The project was done, or these streets and these things were done?
That what council approved on these change orders in the original contract that was done, and that they had been inspected and approved.
But what about the original contract? Not the change
Well,
orders?
so I said the contract with the change orders, I'm not sure where that original million or the $860,000, if that was the original contract.
Yeah, it is.
And then it was, but I know that, well, having not been here when it happened, but that council pulled those portions of that project out in order to save money.
And they were going to use it for something else? What were they going to use it for?
Future project, future water line project, or water
So
project.
KSA going to tell us for sure we're not going to have any more pipeline problems? And have to
No,
go
nobody's going to,
No,
they're not going
we
to
didn't
shoot
even do 30% of the city.
So why are you just saying stop? This is ridiculous. You're
We're not
putting
saying
extra
stop,
burden
we're
on
saying
it
pay for the
already.
work that's been done, and then,
The contract's
Well, we need
done.
some kind of something to continue to make sure that this isn't wasted money and everything's going to blow up.
Okay.
Mayor, I call for the question.
Okay. Could I have a motion to approve the water line replacement project release of payment?
So move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Motion's denied, turned down. I hope they sue us.
I would like to offer another motion.
It's done. We're
No.
moving on to
Don't
item
say
number...
they're going to sue us.
We've already voted on it. We're
And they're
done.
going to sue us?
We're moving on to item number 15, discussion and possible action on adopting an ordinance establishing rates to be charged for electric, gas, water, wastewater services provided by the City of Castro, repealing ordinance number 2017-003 dated October 27, 2016. Jerry?
yes, hello. Linda Coons is going to go over this. She went through the rate study and went through this and helped determine the rates that we need to put on the budget, so I'm going to let her take the lead on this one.
One of the first things I did when I was hired was I was asked to look at the water rate study that was done, and they had several key assumptions that they did, and I just want to go over those key assumptions with you so that you know where these rates are coming from and why we have to increase our utility rates. Basically, in a nutshell, it's, okay, first of all, that the rate study that they did is assuming that we will have no more debt and that we're going to operate status quo with no CIP. And with that alone, when they looked at those rates, they had to come up, and then they were actually, they took it out 5 years and they were looking at the net cash flow of revenues versus expenditures that came in with no change, no CIP, just status quo. And with that, they forecasted that most, and also that utility costs are skyrocketing. And your water rates are going up anywhere from 3 to 5% nationwide, and your sewer rates are tripling. And it takes, not tripling, but they're going up as well, but it costs 3 times as much to run your sewer plant than it does for your water. So keeping those in the back of your head, this is how the rate study is. So I took their scenarios that they had, and they had 3 different scenarios. And so I took those figures and I made 5 scenarios out of our numbers that the City of Castroville has. And I came up with one that we discussed, Gary and I, and we felt was very comfortable because we didn't want to hit the citizens real hard by increasing it anywhere from 3% to 25%. So what we did was we took the figures for the water and we went ahead and used the assumption of increasing the minimum bill and not actually so much the rate. So we're basing the increase on the minimum bill. And I think actually it was directed at one of the council members actually made that suggestion to look at that. So that's what we did. So based on that scenario, I went ahead and I used the rate studies that they proposed based on none of that. But I actually, after sitting down with Jerry, we were looking at a few capital improvement costs based on the workshop that we had in June. I guess it was in June, when we had that Saturday workshop. So based on that, we kind of plugged in some CIP, not much, but a few in there. So what you have in front of you is one of the scenarios that was presented, and those are the rates that we are now looking at. So if you have any specific questions, I can go ahead and address those. But that's basically in a nutshell what was done. And I'm increasing, there's no gas, it's the status quo. Electric is 2% decrease. And then the water and sewer are based on consumption. So, and increasing the minimum payment.
Bert, do you have any
I'd
questions?
like a little clarification. When we got the presentation a few meetings ago, I thought that the recommendation in the study was to increase water and sewage 4% each, and then reduce electric 2%? Did you, see, I can't tell by looking at your chart what percent you did. Is that generally what you follow?
Generally what I followed, yes,
Because
exactly.
the results of that would be a wash for the consumer.
Correct.
Their bill would be approximately the same.
It's going to run a little bit more on the average bill because I did do some scenarios on the average bill, and most, depending on how much water consumption there is. So based on their water consumption, the average bill may go up anywhere from $15 to $20, depending on their consumption. Minimum bills will be higher, but it's just the minimum bill, you know. But most people use more water. Of course, the more water you use, the higher the bill is going to be. So, and there was an increase of 4% in the rate, the actual rate of the usage of the gallons, not in the minimum bill. Follow what I'm saying?
That's the only question I have.
Todd?
I'm good.
Jesse?
I presented you all with just scenarios, which is probably exactly what you did. And when I looked at the proposed rates compared to the existing rates on some typical usages being higher and lower than what I've experienced myself, I see about $10 to $12 a month combined water, sewer, and electric. I didn't throw gas in because it looked like it was, I don't know why I didn't do it. I overlooked it. I did transpose a number on there, and I think it's been corrected on your sewer rates on the minimum charge. It should be 0.75, not 0.57, which amounts to $2.16 a year. So I really feel like adjusting the rates, because what you're going to see is a small impact on a larger number of people rather than a large impact on a smaller number of people. I think that we'll see a significant overall revenue generated from that.
Right, and the unfortunate thing that citizens have to realize nationwide is that the infrastructures of our utility departments is graded at a D-. And so that's why TCEQ is coming down so hard on cities. And it's not just Castroville, I mean, it's everywhere. And in order to do that, we couldn't go status quo. I mean, when Becky, who I haven't had the privilege to meet, she talked to Larry and asked, can you actually operate your city status quo with no CIP, no nothing? Of course you can't. You can't operate that. So that's why I had to go back and relook at these numbers. Now, we may have to come back next year and adjust them again, but at least we have an idea, and we're not going as high as we could go, or, but we're not going as low as I know that council wishes we could. So this to me was like the lesser of all the scenarios. Like I said, I did 5 different scenarios.
Anything else, Paul?
That's all. Thank you.
Phyllis?
Everyone knows how I feel about this. I'm very upset it's happening, and I'm particularly upset, and I thank you for at least looking at raising the minimum bill so everyone will be affected equally. However, the raising the usage, I think, is totally unfair. because there's several of us, as I said before, that don't have the ability to use other avenues for sewage and water. So it will affect us. And so I honestly think doing that with the water and the sewage is wrong. I suggest you do not raise the usage on water and sewage, raise the usage on electricity, because that way it's fair across the board. And I'm dismayed that we even have to do this, because I was not expecting this at all. I'm dismayed, totally. But if you have to do it, I would like it to be equal. So just give everybody a crappy minimum rate, because that's what you need the money for, right? Maintain your stuff, not usage. And leave the usage alone. That's my comment.
Anyone else got anything?
Mr. Mayor, I forgot something I was going to mention, and that is that as we are possibly a growing community, as we add users to our community, we are not seeing those come in as our electric users, correct? We're seeing them come in as CPS's customers.
That's right.
So we are not going to add any more users to our electric system, but we are going to be adding users to our water and sewer system, and if we keep suppressing the rates on those, we're essentially asking our citizens to keep supplementing new users for water and sewer in the city, and I don't think that that's fair to the citizens of Castroville.
Well, maybe we need to go to CPS and stop making our revenues off our electricity.
Well, you just proposed adding revenues to our electricity.
No, you're coming up with this development bit where they're not even going to use our utilities.
It's not me, it's the way it is.
You must know something more than we do.
Well, we only have a certain service area that we can service for electric, and it's not east of the river. I mean, we're inside the horseshoes where our utilities are electric. The utility presentation, the utility study that was given to us clearly showed that the water and sewer are not covering their expenses. I think this is a very minimal increase that we're passing on, and we're actually giving folks a break on their electric bill. Does anyone else have anything? Okay. No. Could I have a motion to approve the ordinance regarding utility rates for the 2018-2019 fiscal year?
So moved.
Second?
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 16, discussion on the 2019 five-year physical forecast and the 2019 budget.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council. So the draft budget that you were given last week has not substantially changed. We did add the $500 in the police department that I told you we were going to go back and do. That was to increase it for the generators from $5,000 to the $5,500 estimate. And then also we took 117 or 118 out of the utility fund for some infrastructure that was actually planned for next year or next fiscal year, the year after this next fiscal year. So those are basically the only differences. So I'm going to, that being said, I think we've beat a lot of this budget to death. I'm going to go over some other items to maybe clarify some things. First of all, I made a list of questions that I remember council asking, and I wanted to make sure that council got the answers to their questions and go from there. First, I want to inform you that when you get your final budget document, it will include a separate division for the RV park, as y'all have asked for, so those costs are being pulled out. There's a copy of the pay plan in here, in that budget, so just to point that out to you that it's there. The comprehensive fee schedule that you adopted last council meeting will be included in this. In this budget, as in the budget for I don't know how many years, since this is before my time, there's a $3,000 donation to the Bluebonnet Children's Center, budgeted in the city council budget under special events, I think. And I just need to go over some rules regarding donations. The Texas Constitution prohibits lending the credit of the state, and the legislature from authorizing political subdivisions, which is what we are, to lend their credit or grant public money. However, if the city determines that a particular expenditure accomplishes a valid public purpose, then we can go ahead and do that. And the key question is whether a valid public purpose is being directly accomplished by this expenditure. And I just need council to say that yes, that you believe this is a direct public purpose, so that we can put that on the budget. And I'm sure that you all are more aware of what the Bluebonnet Children's Advocacy Center does than I am, but it is to lessen the trauma and improve the response to child abuse victims and their families. So I just need council, you don't have to vote on it, but just tell me that it is a public purpose so I can move forward.
Herb?
I support it. I think it's a public service.
Todd?
I think it's a good thing.
Jesse?
Good.
I'll support it.
Phyllis?
Why was this one selected rather than others?
I have no idea. It's just been historically, this is what the city and the city councils have supported. I don't know what other ones that we even have in the city.
Well, I know it works hand in hand with the police department, especially when they have abuse cases. And it works with our police department. It's why the council in the past has always supported it.
All right, thank you.
All right, so
Anything else?
I have some other, we are going to be bringing back to council here probably soon. I know council member Carrie had asked for larger recycling bins. That's not included in this budget, but we'll be bringing that back. We have, that's because we're just now getting the information back. We haven't had a chance to. We've included the generator for the police. There was a question about why are we proposing to lease a Caterpillar. We're going to reevaluate equipment before we purchase it. We did increase the airport by the CPI per their contracts. We've included the warrant fees. We are currently reviewing the laundry equipment lease. We are also considering the animal control salary. And then the RV parks fees were based on the information that Council Member Dyer gave us. And the city administrator personnel and the assistant city administrator personnel was increased as a placeholder. Telecom and the equipment are two separate things. The telecom items are for those items such as radios, phones, those kind of things to run the departments. And utility sales are based on the actual usage for that utility. So you will see some fluctuation in the differences because we're talking water and electric, and so when we look at these revenues and do our estimates, we take them by themselves. We don't look at the other ones. We take them based on the historical usage, what we're being billed, and so that's why if there's fluctuations there, they're just what the numbers are. We're not going to to look at that. And okay, there's some minor things. So the miscellaneous items include items such as fees, dues, special activities, drug screening, that kind of thing. There's a question about what those included. There was a question regarding our utility aging balances. We provided a current one to our, it's probably about a month old now, to Councilmember St. Laban, so we're willing to discuss that at any point. And then that's pretty much it. That's all the questions I can remember. If there's anything I've missed, please let me know. And also, I would like to ask that we could have a special call meeting next week, maybe Monday or Tuesday, in order to adopt the budget and tax rate so we can, so that we can put this to rest. And quit beating it up. Anyway.
So our last date that we can accept this is the 25th of September, is that right?
Absolute last date.
And that's our regular city council meeting. I think we should do it next week at a special call. Is there any reason everybody couldn't be here the 18th for just to approve the budget?
I'm here.
Okay with me?
We have to have 4.
Todd?
Permission from my wife.
Jesse, you good?
My wife agrees too.
Phyllis?
I'm free. I'll be
Okay,
Yeah,
so we're
I'll be
gonna do a special called meeting. I have to have 4 of you for the 18th, and it's just to adopt the budget and the tax rate.
Okay, so one other thing I'd like to go over, and I'm going to need Linda, if you have the phone, do some calculation.
I don't have a phone.
Christie,
I guess-
somebody who can do some calculations here. Okay, so last year, when we adopted our tax rate, what happened was we went back to the tax rate from the prior year. And what that did was we artificially lowered our debt tax rate, our debt, what we collected to make our debt payment. So this year, though we are proposing that we increase very, very slightly, we're talking 4 cents on the dollar, something very, very minimal, that is not going to, we're basically increasing our debt service tax rate. So our M&O tax rate is going to be lower than it would have been last year. It's hard to explain. Which is why, so when we went and we calculated the revenues that we expected to get from our ad valorem tax, we had to take that into consideration. So we were shifting money from general fund to debt service fund. And we're also, when we did the calculations, of course, for revenue, we are conservative, but that's why you're seeing, one of the reasons why you're seeing a lower ad valorem tax rate than you would expect to see, because our debt service tax rate was, we were putting that money into the general fund and paying our debt service out of general fund money and not tax money is basically what happened. So that's, if you like for you to calculate what that is, but I don't think it really matters. Anyway, I just wanted to explain that, why that was happening. Another thing that Councilman Cherry mentioned was the utility rates in the streets. That was based mostly on historical average. I went back and looked, and the lowest I saw was $125,000, and so we have 5 years. I have right here 5 years of historical averaging, and so that's why that amount is. That's going to be for your street lights and other electrical infrastructure for the streets and drainage, and the public works, the city portion of the public works facilities and that kind of thing.
Okay. Good. Any comments?
I got one question.
Yes.
You clarified it for me earlier, but I'd like to get it clarified for everybody else. We talked during the workshop about flood control for Athens Street, trying to figure out a way to get it into the capital plan. And I think we agreed we didn't have the $3 million to put it in there. But we talked briefly about breaking it into 2 or 3 phases and maybe finding a way in this upcoming budget year to at least fund the design and engineering phase, which would be significantly less than the $3 million, probably in the neighborhood of $100,000 to $200,000. Where are we, and what do you anticipate in the final budget that we're going to vote on and the CIP? Is there going to be anything in there?
In this budget, there's not going to be anything specific for Athens Street at this time. What we are doing is we're developing an RFQ for financial advisors. We're already in talking to the engineers about getting these final numbers to work out a plan to fund all these projects within over a number of years, and that is included in that. And our intent is, once we get all that information together, then we will bring it back to council, and we anticipate a budget amendment to include that in there. And yes, the Athens Street is included in this budget, and we'll need to discuss with council what phases and that kind of thing. And we've also got some other things we're looking at right now to maybe mitigate that cost, but we will be bringing that in the future, hopefully in the near future. We just have to get through the budget so we can start concentrating on these things.
Thank you.
As far as that, I think there's things that we can do with our Public Works Department to help relieve some of that.
I do too.
I think that that's an internal issue that needs to be addressed. There's a couple options, and I think that that's something we need to look at just to relieve some of the pressure on the places. But yeah, I support looking at the design and engineering just to see what it is. But at the head of the list is the electric in River Bluff. We've got to fix it. We're going to go down, and we're not going to be able to bring it back up one of these times.
Yes, sir.
But definitely we need to move on that. But I think there's things we can do to relieve some of the issues over there. Any other items we need to discuss about this, or is everybody good with
18th?
The 18th for the special called meeting?
18th is good. I had a comment I wanted to make. I know when we started discussions on the budget, we started out by saying our revenue estimates are conservative, and our expenditures are
Also conservative.
Also conservative, but in a way of making sure we cover ourselves. With the reassessment of our values by the county in the last few months, I've seen a 10% increase in my valuation, so I expect a commensurate increase in my taxes. And if the city, members of the city are also, all the other residents are experiencing the same thing, I think that maybe our revenue expectations were a little bit low.
And that could be. These are based on the estimate. These are based on actual numbers that we received from the county, and
Exactly.
and depending on the properties that are being contested.
But I don't mind those revenue estimates being low in the budget. If we can come in 10% over our revenues at the end of the year, that would be beautiful. So, okay, that's all I wanted to say.
That it? Okay, moving on to item number 17, citizens' comment. Do you have anybody signed up on that?
I had one. Mayor, the 18th at what time?
6.
6.
Mr. Eric Cherry signed up.
I couldn't read his name, so we'll just move on. What do you got to say now? And you got 3 minutes, so make it quick.
I'll give you the fastest, like the football scores, the fastest 3 minutes there is.
You're down to 2 minutes and 45 seconds.
First off, utility rate studies are totally flawed. I wouldn't pay a bit of attention to any of them. They have national averages factored in. They don't understand the way our system's set up. you look at where we are not going to get electricity because of the way our system's set up, and it goes to